What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to From the Top Rope with Andrew Crawford. I'm your boy Andrew Crawford, and before the video starts officially, two things have to happen. You have to like, share, and subscribe, and I'm going to drink something to keep me hydrated, as health is wealth, all of 2026. Probably my least favorite Powerade flavor, but oh well. So today on the channel, I would also like to tell you before we start that you matter. In case no one else tells you today, I will. You matter. Today we're going to be doing the last His Case for Go on Evolution members, and that would be the animal from Washington D.C., Batista. Um, Before he was Drax the Destroyer, he was the animal. He was a professional wrestler that would run through anyone and has had great feuds with the likes of John Cena, his former tag team champion partner Rey Mysterio, Shawn Michaels, and The Undertaker. Most importantly, The Undertaker. And Edge, and he was a part of Evolution, obviously. Very excited to talk about Batista, so let's do this. So, the first thing we're going to talk about, as always, is longevity. And as I've said, I'm a LeBron fan, so longevity will always be important to me. Batista's WWE career started in 02-01 range and lasted until 2019, which you're like, hey, that's a 17-year career. That's plenty of longevity. Well, no, because Batista didn't wrestle between 2014 and 2019, and he didn't wrestle between 2010 and 2014. So, realistically, that's a 9-year career, a 10-year career, as opposed to a 17, which is still not terrible, but, it's also not like elite longevity, but he always made an impact in whatever he was doing. Whether he was Deacon Batista, whether he was Evolution's essential enforcer, tag team champions with Ric Flair, broke away from Evolution, won the Rumble, won the world title at Mania 21 in the main event against Triple H on my 5th birthday, fun fact. Was a staple of what I consider my favorite and arguably the best era of pro wrestling, which is the Ruthless Aggression era. I love it. Batista, like I said, he doesn't have a huge impact or a huge longevity. Like, he doesn't have this 20-year, 30-year career that other wrestlers that I've talked about do. But he has made a massive impact in that career, and with what little time he had. And that's something that is always cool, is like, look at Derrick Rose. He had a very short prime, but made a monster impact with that short prime. So that's always really cool to talk about. Um, I'm not comparing Batista to Derrick Rose, but I am saying, like, for the impact of how short their peak was, it's not an inaccurate comparison. And like I said, he made a huge impact in my favorite era, so that plays a part. But also in his short peak, which I would argue his peak was like from 05 to 2010, which is a 5-year prime. And a 5-year prime for a 10-year career is pretty lit. He won multiple world titles. He main evented WrestleMania. He had a great feud with The Undertaker, Edge, John Cena, a mini feud with Jericho, a feud with Orton. Like, he's had a lot of really cool stuff. A great heel turn in 09 on Rey Mysterio, where he proceeded to, how do I put it, eviscerate him, like, in a very painful way that made 9-year-old Andy be like, oh, Dave, stop, you're killing this man. You know, I'm a big Batista guy. And I kind of like, as a 10-year-old, whenever John Cena won the Elimination Chamber, and then Vince came out and said, "You're going to go to WrestleMania WWE Champion if you can beat this guy." And it was Batista, and Batista just kind of abused Cena and won the title. I was like, because I won't lie, the spinner belt looked tough on a lot of wrestlers, but it looked awesome on Batista. Like, Batista had such a spinner belt vibe to him for me. Even though he's more synonymous with Big Gold, which I happen to have both of. Um, but yeah, he may not have had the longevity, but he still made an impact with a short peak. Um, which is always, like I said, awesome. Um, so maybe like you're like, oh, why does he not have? Why? How can he be a goat without the longevity? Especially when I tell you that there's another thing that he did that was not very good, but then like um, the other three things that I'll be talking about are very, I think he was good at. I don't know why I'm trying to, um, I'm tired, okay? So next we're going to talk about the other thing he didn't do too well, which was promos. You know, I think the best promo he ever cut was the Bragging Rights 2009 interview where he said, "I'm sick and tired of my best friend stabbing me in the back," talking to Rey Mysterio, followed by murder. Batista, like, threw this man into the barricade, was just abusing him, had a match with him at Survivor Series where he abused him again. Um, or maybe his promo as world champion where he told Triple H, "Maybe you're just not good enough to face me again," after Triple H had already had the rematch and lost, which led to their very good Hell in a Cell match, by the way. I will not let people forget that. That is a very good Hell in a Cell match. I love that match. But he was never excellent on the mic, but he was never like horrid. Like, he was never one of those guys on the mic that you're just like, get it out of his hands, never let him talk again. He's bad at this. No, because he could talk a little bit. Not, like I said, he's not like in this upper echelon with like Punk, Rock, Cena, Flair, those guys. He's not in that second tier with like Owens and Zayn, Austin and Rock, or Austin, and Jericho. He's not, like, he is like right in the mid category, like the middle of the pack. Like, yes, they're better, but they're also worse. So I'm not gonna say he's like the worst on the mic ever, but for me, it is by far his weakest link in his like career. Um, in ring, he was an excellent powerhouse. He wasn't this technically sound and proficient like freak of like, he wasn't going to give you a Kurt Angle style classic, but he could give you a just pure power game that was so impressive to watch. Um, I'm a very big proponent of, like, if you're going to be a powerhouse, at least be a good powerhouse. But also, he wasn't afraid to take crazy bumps. He wasn't afraid to, like, he wasn't afraid to be in the ring with a technical guy because that technical guy could always get him to a good technical match. And he's even got his share of submissions that he uses. He had the Batista bite, which is where he basically trapped your arm, wrapped your other arm around him, and like cross-faced you. I always enjoyed that move. I thought it was awesome. But he's always been the kind of guy that he will go out there and give you his best no matter what time he's given. And sure, like I said, he's got his bad matches, but he's also got his good matches. That's not lost on me. Like, I don't think Batista was perfect in the ring by any stretch of the imagination. But I will not sit here and let people say he was the worst bell to bell worker of all time when even in his era, the Great Khali, that era of the Big Show alone was really bad. Um, and then you got like Ryback, which I think Ryback was just like Vince's experiment of a knockoff Goldberg Batista like love child. I'm gonna be honest. And it didn't pan out the way that he wanted it to, obviously. But no, I think Batista's like he's not terrible in ring, and he's not like elite. Like he's not Daniel Bryan, but he's not the Great Khali. Like he could give you a serviceable match, and he's got like some sort of jujitsu background, Muay Thai, something like that. The one that's mainly about takedowns. I'm not good with my like martial arts. So that's really cool. But now let's go to his accolades. He won, I want to say, 6 world titles. He won a couple of tag titles, some with Rey Mysterio and Ric Flair both. I think he won them with John Cena at one point too. That was weird, I know. He's got 2 Royal Rumble wins. Um, and that pretty much rounds out his accolades. He never was in the mid card scene. I don't recall, since I've been watching him, ever having a U.S. title match or an Intercontinental title match. Which he shouldn't have. Like, look at this man. And look at who all was in the mid-card scene at that time. Like, Big Show was just going to run through you. Not, Batista was just going to run through you. Especially with his spear. My word, his spear could have been his finisher. I don't know why it wasn't. But accolades are there, but they're not like of the prominence of the Triple H, Orton, Flair. Like they're not on that level. But they're still like 6 world titles is wild. Especially when you take into account who all he beat for a world title. The Undertaker, Triple H, Randy Orton, John Cena, Edge. Like, he won his world titles from some very talented, like, all-time greats. Like, I think we can give him his props. But, no, like, accolades-wise, he's there. In-ring-wise, he's not perfect, but he was there. Um, Charisma and aura. He has one of the best entrances ever. Like, I'm sorry, but the second I Walk Alone hits and he comes out and he does the like, ah, that is awesome. And the pyro, I need that. I always make my entrance Batista's on WWE games or like classic Punk, one of the two. But I love the. That is such a fire entrance. I love it. And the crowd loved it. And Batista had so much aura and charisma. It was wild to watch him come to the ring because it was so much fun because he always killed. Um, and then tack that onto a usually solid match. Like most of the time, his matches may not have been 5-star, but they were always going to be solid. No wonder that Batista was a mainstay in the Ruthless. I just had it like I don't know what that was. But no wonder Batista was such a mainstay in the Ruthless Aggression era when you take into account his aura and charisma and his in-ring ability both. Like he was never gonna put on this 5-star Kurt Angle level classic, but he did always go out there and give you like his best and give you solid showings. He's got a phenomenal entrance, one of the most entertaining ever. He's got the accolades. His mic work was probably the weakest. And like I said, the longevity may not be there, but he made such a big impact in such a little time that it does need to be restated that that is a huge deal. So yeah, conclusion. For me, Batista is tricky. Like, I don't think you can just say he doesn't deserve to touch the GOAT category or argument, but I think if you want to pick Batista as your GOAT, you would have a harder time talking about him than you would any of the other wrestlers I've mentioned to date. And but I don't think that you can just ignore him in the GOAT debate. Like, I think if someone threw his name out there, you'd have to be like, yeah, that's arguable. You could make that argument. Especially like I said, never a mid card guy. He was never once someone that was going to be your Intercontinental U.S. champion. He was a top guy the entirety of his prime, and that is a huge thanks to Triple H and Evolution. Um, but yeah, I think Batista definitely should be mentioned in the GOAT debate. Do I think he is the GOAT? No. Do I put him in the top 10? No. But I do put him very high up in my GOAT debate, like top 30 range minimum, just because he is an icon, a staple of my favorite era of wrestling. Like, you kind of gotta give him some love. Um, but yeah, so my conclusion is yes, Batista belongs in the GOAT debate, but where you place him, that is completely on you because, like I said, wrestling is a very opinionated thing. You pick your guy, you stick with him, and Batista is indeed um, one of my guys. I would always say that he is in the GOAT debate, but I don't know where exactly he would fit. Um, yeah. And that's the video, and that concludes my series of Evolution members on his case for GOAT. What do you think about it? Tell me about it in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And unlike John Cena, I can see you, and I will see you very soon. And remember, you matter.